to you live from... Fuck if I know. I don't even know where we are. It's dark here, and there are soft things to sit on. That's all I got. It is the Ditch Diggers, episode 21, season 7.
Ditch Diggers here, and ain't no wannabes here, with some not so nice advice for your writing career. To be clear, no punches will be pulled, but the punch may be spiked. How they like before they get on the mic. To my left, we got the mighty Mur Lafferty, and if I piss her off, believe me, she'll come after me. And her co-host, Matt Evan Wallace, on the right. Yes, she may be half as hype as she can take him in a fight. So settle in, folks, buckle in and boot up. Time to meddle in a way to make you writer shut up. It's hard work, but the perk is that it's fun and exciting. Facebook will still be there when you're done writing. Ditch Diggers! Ditch Diggers!
Matt Wallace is back with us, and we welcome the Godmother of Ditch Diggers herself, Gail Carriger.
Hi, everybody.
Glad to see you guys.
Oh, so excited to have Gail back with us.
Unfortunately, we are all on a tight time schedule, so that's why the video's not looking awesome. But I would have done more work on it, but then, we got stuff to do, so we figured we would let you guys look at the less than perfect video and,
have a little more time.
Mur, I think the video looks fucking amazing. Can I
Thank
just say
you.
that? Can I say how good I think the video looks?
Sure.
And I think everybody who is watching thinks the video looks amazing. Everybody talk about how amazing the video looks on LinkedIn.
I appreciate
that.
that.
Guys over this. We were sitting in the green room. There was literally hand trimming pixels to try to make things pretty for all of you. And I just think you need to know the blood and sweat that goes on behind the scenes here.
Yeah.
And what Mur does to try to make all of this what it is. And I just want to acknowledge that.
Yes.
It's important to me.
I'm going to put a chat thing in there. Look at that. There we go. Chat. Haha. And magic. Okay. So what was really cool was a couple of weeks ago, Matt and I were talking about future shows, and actually it was one of you who asked it. Somebody asked what happens to the projects that don't sell, because with non-published writers, it's like, okay, I'll just work on the next thing and hope that sells. But for professionals, we kind of work on things with the assumption that it's going to get us some money. That's why we sell books on spec after we sell our first book. And not sell books on spec. The opposite of that. We want to write the book after we get the contract. And what was very cool was after all of this, Gail sent me an email saying, I want to come on and talk about stuff that didn't sell. And I thought, well, cool. Yeah, please do that.
I just think this is such an interesting topic. And I've just never heard... It's kind of negative, but I've never heard any of the, many writing businessy podcasts that I listen to talking about, what it's like, and under what circumstances it happens. But I know a ton of authors have this happen to them. The next book in a series doesn't sell or doesn't get picked up, or the new series you want to pitch out doesn't get picked up. And I've been through it many, many times, and with various different versions of it. So we should say, for anybody who's newer to the cast, that on spec means you write a proposal for fiction. And generally speaking, for newer authors especially, you have to have written the entire book, because part of selling the book is proof that you can finish a book, because so many authors can't finish a book. Yeah. And many established authors can't finish a book.
Let's name names. Get the mimosas. We'll do it.
So on spec means you're at a point in your career where essentially you've proved yourself as a fiction writer, and they know you can finish the thing, so you can then start selling it just on proposal. Now, some on spec is different for different houses and in different ways. So when I transitioned between writing for adults and writing for young adult, and I don't know if Matt, you had this or not, we had to write. I had to write quite a bit of the book, even though it was an on-spec proposal, to prove that I could write a different genre. So I had to write almost half in my case, because even though they wanted YA specifically from me, they weren't sure I could do it. So I had to prove I had the chops to write that age bracket. Is that what they made you do too, man?
Yeah, no, it's just, I'm laughing because I'm kind of still going through that, honestly. I've done 2 middle grade books. Now, you're really gonna peek behind the curtain. Fuck it. Like, so I've done 2 middle grade books now. One came out in January. The next one comes out this January. Oh, hey, it's right here. Look at that.
I was gonna grab it behind me. Oh, yay! You got it.
That's coming out in January.
Wait, say it for the podcast.
Oh yeah, so it's the Supervillain's Guide to Being a Fat Kid. It's the most important to me book I've ever written. I will put that on. I'm very proud of it and very excited about it. And
pre-order will be on the show notes.
Yes, please do pre-order. It's very important because there's no paper. There's no paper.
No kidding.
Yeah. Order your print books now. And it has an adorable cover, everybody, so you want to own it.
The cover is amazing. Kat Fajardo, amazing artist. She did the cover of Bump, my first middle grade. Anyway, so yeah, no, I had to write a significant amount when I initially proposed to them. And despite and my publisher is lovely. They're lovely people. They're doing a great job. I love working with them. But like, I did a 2-book contract with them. They like me. They want to keep working with me. So like, what else you got? I wrote up a new proposal for another book and sent it in. And they're like, we really love the proposal. Could you do some more could you do sample chapters of it though? So we have those as well. And I'm like, but I did 2 books.
You know I could do this. Like,
you know I can do that. And my editor's like, I know, man, but just like, I want to have the ammunition to take to the acquisition team to really sell this thing. You know, it's like, so on the one hand, I mean, I did it. Just whatever. Like, I
feel better if it was ammunition for a bidding war. Like, let's be honest here.
Yeah, that would make me feel better as well. But just like, it's difficult. You do feel like you're constantly having to prove and reprove yourself, and it can be emotionally taxing in that day.
Yeah, and that's kind of part of this. So one of the let's get into the nitty gritty right away. Then we don't have that much time, but like one of mine was this exact experience. So when authors write to contract, as a general rule, we have something called an option clause, which is that the publisher has the right to option the next thing that we write, under specific circumstances. So depending on your contract. So both of after I finished the series for my adult house and for my young adult house, the ones that were under contract, I had open option clauses with both houses, which meant if I wrote anything that was specific to them, I had to offer it to them. If I had a proposal or an idea for a new series, basically, I would have to offer it to them. And I wasn't particularly interested in doing a lot more with my adult house. I was done with series in that universe and in the adult sphere in general. But I did have some ideas for stuff for young adult. And I still have my same editor there. I hadn't been orphaned or anything. So she's somebody I really like working with. So I was like, okay. So I came up with a couple of options and we talked about it. My agent and I talked about which ones we thought would be kind of more commercially viable and that the house would be interested in so that I could save time and not have to work on multiples to pitch for. And then we settled on one, pitched it. My editor was very, very interested in it, which meant it got sent over to acquisitions, which is essentially part of the marketing team, which is when the editor is essentially your project manager. So what they're going to do at your publishing house is like advocate for the book. And the acquisitions process is the process where they have to advocate the most because they're trying to convince the publisher to spend money to acquire you.
Yeah.
And so they'll take the book proposal to the publisher usually, and then usually a rep from the marketing team, publicity sometimes a couple of other people. So there's like a little group meeting about your book. And they're going to try and decide, whether they want to spend the money on it. And at that juncture, the marketing team actually weighs in pretty heavily because they're the ones that actually have to sell the thing. And so they're going to and they know presumably the market, or they try to predict the market in 2 years when it'll be done.
Which is great because, we'll know where the pandemic is in 2 years.
Yeah, everybody knows what's happening in 2 years.
Yeah.
And in my particular case, it was the marketing team that were like, yeah, my editor was really excited about the project. Marketing team was like, yeah, we don't think this is going to sell. And so even though I was pretty much all the way through contract negotiations and everything, it got kicked out at the 11th hour.
Oh my God.
And that is just an example of what can happen under these circumstances where like when we're talking about like being an established career author and trying to sell and for perspective, my first young adult series with this house was a New York Times bestseller. It did really well. It earned out, even though it had a large advance. It was a successful 4-book series. And still, like, they were like, yeah, we you front list for us, but we're still not gonna risk the money. And part of that is I'm more expensive because I was successful in the past. So they know I'm not going to take a low ball offer on a new series. So they really have to be careful about their money under those circumstances. But, so that is an example of where, you're getting most of the way through the process and it still gets rejected in the 11th hour.
And I just love that because it's a high level example. And I think a lot of people think when you get to the point, and when you hopefully get to the point in a career that you're talking about, Gail, like things suddenly get very easy for you, right? Like everything is just a given. You write a book, they publish the book, they give you a bunch of money, rinse and repeat forever because, you reach that bestseller status. And that's just not how anything works at all.
It really isn't. Which is not to say if I went up with something that was a somewhat similar carbon copy to my previous series, in either house, they would probably be interested in it because what they do like is proof that, like something has sold in the past. If we can like repeat that model, they'll be all over it. It's just me who's like, yeah, I did that already. I don't want to write more in the previous series or just a mock-up of the previous series. So part of it is I want to challenge myself and explore different avenues. And there may be like, yeah, but that's not a guaranteed sell.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. That's it's just, I would like to think most authors want to do that. They want to keep doing different things and exploring different stories. And one of the curses of that kind of success is you can get locked in doing the same thing over and over again. And if you acquiesce to that, you find 10 years has gone by and you're writing the exact same story over and over again, which sounds like hell to me, frankly. I'm not sure it's worth the trade-off.
But here's a question. I know this is going to make me sound like an asshole, but after the week I've had, I don't care.
Sound like an asshole, Mur. Sound like an asshole.
This is that podcast.
You know how much we love Eddie Murphy's music? My girl likes to party all the time, party all the time, party all the time. I didn't sing it. Can't DMCA me.
Okay.
But, I mean, I've been thinking about this. It's like Steve Martin and his banjo, Eddie Murphy and his rock, pop, whatever the hell that was. And how they really... And I know it's different because we just want to tell different kinds of stories and why they went into completely different areas of, what they were doing. Michael Jordan and baseball, I mean, it's like... that's what I worry about. If I try to stretch my wings, I'm just going to be like, no, I'm not going to talk anything about Six Wakes. We're going to talk about My Girl Likes to Party All the Time. That's the new exciting thing for me.
Yeah, but it happens. No, I was just but it happens all the time with authors. Like, yeah, and I mean, here's a similar example. Like, I have a podcast which is about travel, where I don't really talk about books all that often, and I just do that because it's fun. It kind of has nothing to do with being the author side of my personality,
right?
And it's not popular, and I'm never going to make money on it or anything like that. But I just really enjoy doing it, and I feel like with people like Martin or what have you, that's kind of what they're doing. Is like, I would like to hope that they don't actually believe they're that good and are going to make that much money at it.
I don't know anybody who's going to make that much money doing banjo.
Right, yeah, exactly. So, like, he's sitting on a pile of money. He doesn't need to do it. He's at the point of his life where he gets to do whatever the hell. I mean, I feel like that's when people complain to me about, like, George R.R. Martin or what have you. I'm like, yeah, he doesn't need to write the next book.
Yeah.
If he doesn't want to. He just doesn't straight up need to. Like, period. End of discussion. Like, if he doesn't want to, he doesn't have to, because he's fine, right? Presumably. But like that does come into play as well with, but I also, yeah, I mean, this is a trap that whether you're indie or traditional, like as a creative, we have to think about, like, do you want to keep producing the thing that will sell, but it's perhaps not as inspiring as the other shiny that you're looking at. And like, that's just a career risk you're going to take, whether you're a writing to market indie author producing at a rapid pace, for KU or whatever, or whether you're traditionally published and your publisher wants you to write more of the thing that's old. So,
right. Well, the other side of that coin is kind of where I'm at right now. Is like, I haven't had a book that's a really big seller yet. So I've been trying a bunch of different very different genres.
Very different.
Going from adult fantasy, epic fantasy, to middle grade, to whatever the hell you want to call the novellas I did before. And I kind of worry about, I go through spurts where it's like, it's good that I'm diversifying. It's good that I'm trying different things. It's good that I'm in different markets. From a business standpoint, it elevates the chance that one of these things will hit, right? At the same time, on the other side of the coin, I worry it's like, by not focusing on building myself up in one space, am I spreading myself, too thin, or am I kind of like just throwing things at the wall and hoping something will stick? And is that the wrong thing to do from a business standpoint? And I don't really know the answer to that, but I have both of those traits of thought simultaneously. So it can be tough to know what's the right thing from that standpoint.
It's certainly more difficult to establish a brand.
Right.
But then you also are not going to be fighting that brand when you do want to experiment in the future. So I mean, it's a really, from a career standpoint, it's really something. I mean, I feel like literary authors, the successful ones out there, they tend to do this where they jump a lot between genres. And there's certainly like super successful authors of the past, like Jane Yolen, who did children's books, middle grade, young adult, like super thought-provoking sci-fi, cultural sci-fi kind of, philosophical pieces almost. And like she had but that was many, many years ago. But and there are other authors like Tanya Huff who write multiple different subgenres of sci-fi fantasy in completely different voices, to the point where she has fans of one series, but none of her other series is would be one of those people, right? So, it is possible, but I feel like we see it more in kind of mid-list authors or like workhorse authors who produce regularly, but never like to huge breakout success.
Right.
The ones who jump around a lot. But that's can be a living. I do feel like there is promotion-wise and stuff. There's a constant like restart of trying to find the right market. Mm-hmm.
But that's all. But to bring it back around to where we started. So, what do you do when the thing doesn't sell? Because that's what we started to talk about.
Right. Yes.
But we're kind of diverging the tracks here. So the thing didn't sell. What's next?
Well, this is, in my case, it's pretty easy, because if I don't want to write it, I don't bother to write it. Because there's something else I can write that probably will sell. But also, if I do want to write it, I can go indie. So, and I'm going to bring this up because I think it's kind of an interesting case, which is I'm currently writing a couple of YAs, which I'm not even bothering to pitch. So, because I pitched out that series that they decided to not acquire, my option clause has been satisfied. Mm-hmm. So I technically don't have to, I'm out of option, is the term that I would use. And which means that I can now write YA if I want to and don't have to show it to them at all. And so the one that I pitched that they turned down, I wrote, but in a completely different way. I wrote it kind of more sci-fi-ish, and sci-fi's not selling right now. So I didn't even pitch at sci-fi level because I figured no way else would want it. So I wrote it in a different universe. And then I've recently been inspired to write a series. And I didn't, even though I think it could be quite commercially successful, I've decided just to write it all myself so that I could release it independently relatively quickly. It's a 3-book series.
Right.
And I will also probably give it to my agent and have her just take a look at it completely written. And that's because I felt inspired to just write the whole thing. And I just didn't want to suffer through the proposal experience to have a traditional publisher tell me that they didn't want it or didn't think. I was like, no, I'm inspired. I'm just going to write the whole thing right now. And then we'll present it to them as a completed 3-book series and see if they're even interested in it or not, because knowing that it's completed, it's already done, and then I can do whatever I want with it if they don't want it.
Right.
So there's some worry in the chat and in my own heart. Sci-fi doesn't sell right now?
In YA, that's the doggerel.
Okay. Sorry, in YA.
Yeah, not an adult, in YA.
Okay, good. You scared the hell out of me. Sorry. Okay, my book's coming out.
Sorry.
In 11 months.
There hasn't been any breakout YA in the sci-fi arena since the dystopian,
Yeah, except for dystopian. Yeah.
Yeah. And that seems to have died down. So.
Yeah. So, Primi Mohammed is in chat saying, talking about, first that we were calling her out with the "I'm finishing my book, leave me alone."
Yeah, we're both on deadline right now, actually, for novels. We have like the same deadline for our new novels, so we've been agonizing to each other regularly every day.
And Underpope says, Preemie will always be known as the cosmic horror author and never be able to break into Regency romance. Preemie says, no, my Regency romance. But Preemie's had people comment on some of her books this year with, "Oh, this isn't cosmic horror." And she's got 2 non-cosmic horrors coming out this year. Preemie, you want to give us some titles?
So we can chill for you.
Yeah. Except for there's a little bit of lag under Pope. What's Charlie Jane Anders referring to?
I assume SF isn't selling in YA.
Oh yeah,
that's right. She did a YA sci-fi, didn't she? It's had a person with very purple hair on the front.
There are always exceptions.
Yeah.
But I should also say that my definition of success is a lot of money from the sales of the book, not necessarily critical acclaim.
Everyone's got their own definition.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic for a whole other show, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I should have said that for me, I mean, critical acclaim is nice, but I need to make a living that supports a lifestyle in California off of my book.
Oh my!
Felt that in my undercarriage.
Yeah, I think about that a lot too, because my husband's been done so much to support my writing career. I would love for it to pay off and give him some, time to focus on something other than a day job. So, just waiting for all those movie options to come in and.
Oh yeah, they're great.
Yeah, well, the options are fine. Just Anyway.
Hollywood.
Yeah, that's another topic, I know.
How do you do it?
Preemie says, and what can we offer you tonight is with Neon Hemlock, and the annual Migration of Clouds is September 28th with ECW Press. Both non-cosmic horror. Thank you, Preemie.
And I've read and What Can We Offer You Tonight is fucking amazing.
Premie's fucking amazing.
Yeah,
but that is another thing to consider if you are an author like Matt, who is basically on a reboot schedule or trying different, throwing the spaghetti at the wall, trying different genres, or if that's how you want your career to go, you can end up with a situation where you're multiple promoing different books in different genres that have all coming out around the same time, or different projects. Diversification is a lot of fun, and it is kind of smart in terms of assets, and these are assets at the end that are going to bring in money, we hope.
We hope.
But you can also end up with a situation like I'm in this situation right now where I'm promoting both a special hardcover edition and a new digital release. And those are pretty much different market shares. Fortunately, it's the same universe, but that's a lot of promo to have to suddenly come down the bandwagon and try and balance and stuff like that too. So
it is. And that's a really hard thing. Because we're talking about, I've got an adult fantasy series going at the same time that I'm trying to promote this really grounded middle grade book, and they couldn't be farther apart in audience and market and tone and everything. And I've only got so many channels, so you got to decide, what am I gearing my channel to promote right now? How am I keeping those audiences balanced? It's a lot. It can be a lot to really juggle and get your head around.
Well, it's interesting. We talk about that with Ursula Vernon, who, when she sold her first book.
That's right. Ursula does this.
Yeah, Ursula does this when I remember because it happened in my house. I got big hangover the next day out of a sheer jealousy. When she got her first offer, she's just like, "Oh, I'm gonna write a big offer for children's books. Okay, sure." And then Dragon Breath came out by Ursula Vernon. And then when she started to sell adult stuff, she realized that people who might find her horror books will just see Ursula Vernon and think, "Oh, my kid who loved Dragon Breath will love this." And that even though it says The Hollow Places and has a really scary cover. So she's, goes by T. Kingfisher, and this is not a super secret pen name. This is completely for people who run across it online or in a bookstore kind of thing. But she does have the 2 personas, and I was gonna ask. I was gonna wonder if she did a lot worried about promoting both of them, but Ursula just kind of exists, and word
Ursula
gets out.
Is a singular example. You can't do what Ursula does. No one can do what Ursula does.
Yeah.
Whose phone is ringing?
Mine, sorry. We were discussing this offline, but I'm dealing with a lot of like family hospital drama right now, and so like I have to keep my phone on. I'm sorry, everybody.
No, that's fine. I should have warned you because I am as well. And like yesterday during my stream, someone called and I had to just mute the mic and go over there. So I should probably point out that can happen to me. Probably will happen this week. So sorry. Anyway.
But back on to the the initial question is sort of. So have you two had experiences of pitching out and getting rejected, kind of along in your career or anything? Like, this is the Ditch Diggers, so let's talk about, like, how did you handle that? Like, business-wise, what did you do?
So since I first started, I did 2 novels that didn't sell early on with a co-writer. When we went through the whole submit to agents, submit to any publisher that'll take it, and then wait a year and a half to hear back and all that crap. Those are the only 2 novels the only 2 things that I wrote and finished. Am I still coming through?
Yeah.
My screen going.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are the only 2 things I wrote and finished that I didn't end up selling, and I'm very fortunate in that regard because I know.
What did you do with them?
I just trunked those, honestly, because they were very early. They were earlier novels. When I look back at them later, I was like, they read very much like people trying to learn how to write a novel as they write.
Yeah.
So they weren't things that I felt were worth revisiting or worth dredging up. And I've also done, my own indie stuff on the side, for my own gratification and just to make money, and that's gone, varying levels of success. Everything that I've had rejected has always been something I've done on proposal, and sometimes those proposals were, 1 sheet of paper, and sometimes those proposals were really elaborate, and I wrote a lot of stuff and put a really big package together, and then nobody wanted it.
Yeah.
And that's not as harrowing as having a whole novel that you wrote universally rejected by publishers that you're trying to sell it to. But it's still not fun.
Yeah.
I do think it's a little easier to bounce back because you're still in that phase of like, okay, you pitched us this, we didn't like it, but hey, maybe we like you, what else have you got? And you can go to something else.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to pivot when it's a whole book. So I have not had the experience of taking out an entire book that I have written myself and having that rejected by everybody like my agent took it to.
Well, I've had an interesting situation where there were 2 ideas in my head that really kind of took root and stayed with me over the last 10 years, and I couldn't for the life of me sell it. It's like, I think the first dark fantasy one, Jen, my previous agent, was not that into it, or I just felt I didn't establish it enough. And then the second one, I worked with her for 6 months to get the proposal together, and it didn't sell. And just like Matt said, I was very lucky in that a couple of people came back and said, but what else you got? And so then I pitched the book that's coming out next October called Station Eternity. Thank you, guys. We didn't even plan that. That was cool. But one thing that's really cool that happened is over like the past 2 years or a year and a half or something, I've had opportunities to pitch those 2 plots as different media. So right. Six to Start, the company that does the Zombies Run app, are looking for new adventures that aren't necessarily about zombies. It can be about anything. They've got historical stories, they got fantasy, they got science fiction, they got romance, they got trans romance, they've got, they're just like doing all sorts of really amazing shit. And so I pitched my dark fantasy that never went anywhere. I figured I could tell that story because it involves like running through a city and running through dark ossuaries full of ghosts, and so I just pitched it as that and sold it. So I was, it certainly wasn't novel money, but I was just thrilled. Godmaker started to come out 4 weeks ago. It's told in 5 parts. And you gotta download the Zombies Run app, and you gotta pay for at least 1 month of VIP to get the whole story. So I know I'm already like reducing the audience to runners who will like dark fantasy. So I know it's not going to hit a huge number of people, but I'm still really proud of what I did. And I was really glad I got the story out in some way. And the other one, I was asked to pitch a novella to Audible, and so I pitched the other one that didn't go anywhere, and they took it as a novella. So I'm working on the final edits to that. So I was very lucky to have opportunities. So I think doing it yourself is an option. I'm hoping we have enough time for me to ask Gail a quick question, but also there's so many opportunities right now to put your work out in a different way, and you just got to be open to who is paying writers.
Yeah, the flexibility. This is the flexibility and diversity.
Yeah.
So, like, this is the idea that if you have a career path where you do write multiple different genres, multiple different ages, you can also think in terms of multiple different platforms and like different kinds of adaptations. You know, scripting for animation, scripting for like, there's just so gaming. Board gaming, if you're like a world builder, you know, there's just so, like, if what that needling project in the back of your head is more like world building, then there's gaming. If it's more plot driven, then there's like video or you know, like or video games or like there's just a lot. There's full cast audio. There's a lot of things you can do with projects now. If you are just inspired by the baby project and you want to see it come to some kind of fruition,
right?
Thinking outside the box in terms of like, it doesn't have to be a novel is definitely like, I mean, there's Vela, there's Radish, there's serialization options. There's just so much going on right now. There really are a lot of opportunities.
You can go back to that absolutely new thing, podcast fiction. Anyway,
gets invented every year.
It is. It really is. So I only want you to answer this if you think you can summarize, Gail. And if not, we'll be happy to bring you back. But I
Anytime.
know that you have a kind of, you already have your indie machine going. Can you give me a list of as many people as you have involved in helping you self-publish a book?
Oh,
if it's not a quick list, we can talk about it later.
No. But we should definitely have a conversation about like the hybrid side at some point, because I know you guys mostly go traditional, or you tend to work with a producer of some kind,
right,
for lack of a better term, whether that's a publisher or what have you. And I'm pretty solidly mostly indie now these days. But so, yeah, I have a team. But this is because my personality is such that, like, if I can't learn how to do it well, I would rather find and hire somebody else who can do it well. So, for example, I outsource cover art design. So that's one person. And I have a developmental editor I still work with. Some indie authors don't work with dev editors. I like them. I like being edited. I like the editing process. So I have a dev editor. That's expensive. And then I have a copy editor who does my line edits for me. And then I used to also have a proof editor, but I now crowdsource that. I have a tiny little beta reader team of super fans that and that is because I used to have a formatter who did all the layout for me, but I've learned how to do that myself. So that part of the process has become time-wise much, much shorter. And so I have the flexibility to get a project basically formatted completely out to beta readers, and then I can fix it myself quickly. So, you know, my team is, I would say 5 to 10 people, depending on the book and the process and what's going on. So it's a little bit like a publishing house team, you know, like I have somebody who's maybe acting the part of the publicist, acting the part of the publisher, just in an indie perspective on it. I like a team. I like working with multiple people, but it is managing multiple contract workers essentially.
Yeah.
And these are all people who I pay rather than in the traditional publishing model, which is when I have been paid. So,
right.
So the power dynamic is slightly different. You know, like I have to wait in line to get my dev edits. I'm waiting right now. But you know, I had to wait to get edits back from my editor.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I have a team. Basically.
Do you have like satin jackets and a team name? Because you should.
I mean, but the same thing can happen, right? Like the same situation where I can get orphaned, they can retire, they can, you know, move on to another thing. Like my sainted cover art designer has left me, and so I'm kind of like,
no.
I have to find a new cover art designer. Fortunately, it's right when I'm switching to YA and science fiction and stuff. So I'm like, maybe it was time for a rebrand anyway. You know, I'm learning in this business that you take every setback as a pivot opportunity to try something new.
Well said. Very well said. Very good lesson.
Exactly.
Well, I unfortunately have to break out of the stream now because I have to go do video game things because I'm technically working right now. Don't tell them.
Okay, we won't.
I'm here on a live stream.
It's just us and all the people watching who know this.
Yeah.
It's a secret.
Yes.
But I feel like, Gail, you're going to have to come back because there's more to mine here. I feel like we just scratched this. Not just scratched. Maybe we dug a little hole, but we can get so much deeper into this. And also, I just enjoy having you on and getting to talk to you because I never get to talk to you. And,
Yes.
and
I don't think I'm not even sure if we've talked since Ireland. Have we? That's like 2 years.
It has been a while, yeah.
Yeah. We ended up going to the same like tourist spots after Worldcon, so we hung out together a little bit. That was fun. But anyway, so Matt, tell us where you can find you online.
I'm on the Twitters at Matt F. and Wallace, and you can go to my website, matt-wallace.com. And those are the two main places. And again, the Supervillain's Guide to Being a Fat Kid, January next year. Very important to me. Please go pre-order. Pre-orders are even more important than they usually are, and they are usually really freaking important.
Yeah.
So that's a huge amount of importance.
Yeah.
And thank you to everybody for all of that.
Yeah, those that pre-order will be on my site at murverse.com. Any Ditch Diggers post, I'm going to be putting our last 2 books up there. I'm trying to be more responsible with the postings. Yeah, so Gail, how can we find you and all of your awesome stuff?
It's gailcarriger.com, GAILCARRIGER. But, I'm pretty good on my SEO, so
Yes.
search it. That thing will come up. But yeah, in my case, you want the website. I've been pulling back from social media a lot recently. I'm still there, but the website will point you at whatever social media you want to follow me on. It also explains how I behave on the different social medias, but it'll have everything. And what should I shell? I should shell Heroine's Journey. This is a book that I have. We would
had
show
you
you a
on
cover, but I'm not that prepared.
We had you on a little while ago talking about that. So if you want to look into our archives, we had Gail on doing that.
Yeah.
It's fun. Go ahead.
It's great. No, I mean it's still selling and doing great, and people love it. And maybe someday Ditch Diggers should talk about fiction writers writing nonfiction, because that's a whole other ballgame. Yeah.
Matt Underpope says, I mashed that pre-order button so hard my cursor broke.
Thank you, Underpope. And need a million more people just like you.
Yes.
Exactly like you.
Exactly. All right, and you can find me murverse.com, mightymur@gmail.com, and on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/mightymur. We would normally be back next week, but I'm taking the week off. So 2 weeks from now, on Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Matt and I will be back with another thing to loudly swear about in publishing. And thank you so much, Gail. We'd love to have you back.
Thank you,
probably
Gail.
pretty
Anytime,
soon.
you guys. Yeah, and honestly, now that I know there's a regular time slot, just hit me up anytime you need me.
Yep, I'm going to put all my socials in the chat, but we are winding down. I'm going to look for somebody to raid. Matt, if y'all got to go, that's cool. Don't feel the need to stay.
I will tip on out stealthily, but thank you, Gail. Thank you, Mur. Thank you, everybody in the chat.
It was nice seeing you guys, even if only virtually.
I know. Someday we will have wine together again.
Oh my goodness, there will be drinking. Matt has gone. Am I still around?
Yes, you are, but it's completely screwed up my video. So we've got one of your eyes in one of the videos and one of your eyes in the other one. So it's pretty interesting, actually.
Oh, I'm a zombie. Well, I'm in a jet as well. But
Okay.
It was awesome being on. Thank you for letting me squeak a wheel at you to come on and talk about this. And we'll do it again sometime.
Excellent. Thank you, Gail. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
And I don't know anybody who's streaming right now, so I guess I will just go ahead and sign off. Again, I will be back tomorrow afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, with another episode of I Should Be Writing. And then, as I mentioned, last couple of weeks have been really stressful, and I just need a little bit of time off. And yesterday I thought I needed to take a break from work so I could work, and realized that didn't make any sense. And I realized what I needed to do was be away from the streaming and the production part of my requirements. So just taking a little break to catch up on some other work, and then I'll be back the next week. But I'm still here tomorrow, 2 o'clock. So y'all take care, be good, wear your mask, and thank you, Preemie. I am. I'm trying. I'm trying really hard. I promise. But I'm sorry I didn't greet everybody in the chat. That's the problem with numerous guests. But I did see everybody quote, texting and talking, and I appreciate it. So, y'all take care, and I'll see you tomorrow. You can support us at patreon.com/mightymur.
Ditch Diggers!
Theme song by Devo Spice, devospice.com.